We have some issues with the Alexee Trevizo case. If you guys don't remember Alexee Trevizo, but I'm sure a lot of you guys do, well, she was arrested because she had given birth at a hospital, but in the hospital bathroom where a discarded baby was found by hospital staff after she had used the restroom. That was about January 2023, so almost about more than like a year and a half from now. And she's supposed to be having trial next month. Time has flown by so quickly. She's supposed to have her pre-trial in about 2 weeks, but there are already hiccups, major hiccups in her case. And I want to know what you guys think about this. If you think that the prosecution, if the state can possibly overcome this. But before we get to that, let's just do an overview, a recap of Alexee Trevizo, what happened, what people said. And let's just start with Alexee Trevizo. So 19-year-old, she was a senior in high school. She was in cheerleading. And she said that she didn't know she was pregnant. She had no idea that she was pregnant. She was getting her period regularly. She was telling hospital staff, her mother, that she had never had sex. She was a virgin. However, when people found footages of her in cheerleading practice or, doing the cheerleading stuff, they were like, hey, you kind of look like you're pregnant. Now, initially, hospital staff didn't think she looked pregnant. They said that she would look like she was trying to conceal it. She was wearing baggy clothes.
Oh, it just seemed like we were being just deceived from the beginning. But that's just my take on it. It seemed like she was very manipulative with us. And
what did she appear like when she came in? Could you tell? Because I know most women you can tell, unless they're a large woman.
Right.
She's a petite girl. Could you tell that maybe she was pregnant, or?
I could not. She was very, what would be the word? Not necessarily standoffish, but anytime you asked her to lay down, she would kind of maneuver away from you almost. It seemed like, thinking back, she wouldn't want you to kind of, it was at least what it seemed like to me, she didn't want you to discover, that she was pregnant. And she wore really baggy clothing. And she wouldn't sit still for you. I'm sure she was very uncomfortable too, but yeah, she wouldn't allow you to do it.
Quite honestly, in some of the pictures that I saw in her cheerleading outfit, yes, she did look pretty chubby. However, when she's in motion, which you're going to be in motion, especially when you're in cheerleading stuff, you're going to see your stomach sticking out. You're stretching, you're bending over backwards, and she's doing heavy lifting here. She's lifting another cheerleader up in the air, and people can see hey, she looks kind of pregnant. I just don't know if when she was around her mom, parents, she probably just obviously wore extremely baggy clothes and told her mom that she just gained a lot of weight. I think she tried telling one of the technicians at the hospital, this is after giving birth in the bathroom and discarding the baby into the trash can. She tried saying that she was really confused. She doesn't know how this happened because, she was on birth control and her clothes was getting tight. She just thought she was just gaining weight.
So I didn't want to have a conversation with her after I was given this information. But she was talking to me, and while I'm trying to get things set up, and she says, I don't know what's going on. She said, I didn't know I was pregnant. I'm a cheerleader. I started gaining a lot of weight. My clothes were tight. I was taking birth control pills. So she said, this didn't make any sense to me. I don't know what to tell you. And I did my scan, and then I left.
Now, do we believe this? Do we think that she was just trying to be duplicitous to the staff member, the people around here? Other staff members also said that when they were examining her, it felt like she was being evasive.
We were told that she began having back pain after coming home from cheerleading practice. Sounds like she had gone to bed and then woken her mother up. And so her mother brought her in. And when I initially evaluated her, she really wouldn't sit still. She wouldn't really let me examine her. She had on a very baggy sweatshirt. And, a 19-year-old with back pain, the vast majority of the time, that's not going to be anything serious. but she was just not really acting right, and so I became concerned that there was something else going on, potentially a kidney stone or something like that. I asked the patient and her mother if she could be pregnant. Her mother said no, under no circumstances. I've been buying pads for her every month.
Not only that, I mean, she kept maintaining over and over again that she was a virgin, has never had sex, still on her period, and currently on her period right now. Even after the test came back positive, she still maintained this.
I believe, I wasn't in the room, but I believe that's when the doctor said, hey, your test came back positive for pregnancy. She adamantly denied it up to that point, even with me the entire time. She said she was a virgin, and she's had her period every month consistently. The doc was doing that.
Then you said that, and she told you that when you were triaged?
She told me that in triage,
Okay.
yeah, that she was a virgin and that she had her last pregnancy was just prior on that month and had...
You mean period?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Her period, she had them consistently every month.
The doctor came in, explained to her that she had a miscarriage. Her and her mom had a back and forth about it.
The doctor said she had a miscarriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
She said it seems, essentially, I'm not sure the exact words, because it was a few months ago, but she said, it seems that you've suffered from a miscarriage, which didn't seem totally abnormal. I've seen awful miscarriages before that are very bloody.
Right.
She essentially was scared. She was worried that she was going to get in trouble. She did have the back and forth with her mother that was just about they had said, the mom was upset because she had had sex and hadn't told her. So they were going back and forth on that, and then she was just denying it, which was a little wasn't really deniable at that point in time.
Right.
So the patient was denying having sex at this point to her mom.
Yeah, she was trying to state that she was still a virgin.
After she came in from the bathroom and all the blood and all that. Okay.
The nurse continues with the interview saying that Alexee asked a weird question. She asked the ultrasound technician that what would happen if you stop taking one medication and you start taking another. Now, I do want to mention that I think there is a clash of statement here because this wasn't mentioned in the ultrasound technician's interview. I don't know if she forgot or if it didn't happen, if there's a misremembering, but I did want to bring this in because we do want to know, did she stop taking her birth control medication and start taking weight loss medication? And why would she do that?
She did at one point in time when the ultrasound tech was in the room with her ask if there was anything. She pretty much said, would there be any bad outcomes if she had stopped taking one medication and stopped taking another? And I said, well, what medications are you talking about? She said, well, what would happen if I stopped taking birth control and started taking weight loss medications? And I was like, I don't know.
Is there anything we haven't asked as of yet that you think we should know about?
Nothing that I think of.
Okay.
The only thing was just those medications that she was asking about. That was weird.
Just what happened if you stopped birth control, started weight loss? And she didn't expand on that? She didn't tell you why she was thinking that?
No, it seemed obvious in my head though, so.
Could you tell me why it seemed obvious?
Well, it seemed like she'd been trying to hide this pregnancy from her mother for some time. So if you know you're pregnant, you're not going to continue taking birth control pills. But if you're trying to hide it, you might start taking weight loss medications. That's just kind of what it seemed like in my head.
Okay, just want to make sure, because it seems like it to me. Just want to make sure I'm not thinking.
And was the argument between her and her mom pretty heated?
I wouldn't say heated. It was awkward.
Awkward.
Yeah, they were going back and forth, and her mom was definitely angry.
Alexee Trevizo was in the bathroom for about 20 minutes. She was locked in there and didn't make a sound, according to a lot of staff members. And people went to go check up on her multiple times. Now, the crazy thing is that when the nursing staff went to the bathroom, they were, trying to get her to unlock the door. She finally unlocks the door when they got the keys. And he asked her, what happened here? And she's like, oh, nothing. I'm on my period.
Whenever we finally had the key to unlock it, she opened it and just kind of walked out.
Did she say anything at that point?
She didn't say anything. She was just looking kind of straight past me and went back to the room.
Did you look into the restroom?
I did.
Okay,
yeah.
what did you see?
Went into the restroom and I saw a large amount of blood.
Where?
And it was on the floor. It appeared to like she had tried to wipe it up in places. It was kind of on the back wall behind the commode, the toilet. And so I said, you know, you okay? What happened? And she said, I'm on my period, what she said. And she walked out. And then I went in.
Isn't that crazy? And to see her leave the bathroom in his demeanor, just casually leaving the bathroom, you know, she like wipes her hand with a paper towel, just casually tosses away, and then she just walks off. Like, one could say that she was in shock, but I mean, it just looks so eerie. It's so eerie to see this in the security cam footage. This is an overview of the security footage. You can see Alexee Trevizo. She's running in there. She's got her left hand over her left buttock. Looks like she's really got to go to the bathroom. So this is around 1:39 a.m. I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the part where her mom comes in and checks in on her about a minute afterwards. Now, the mom stands out there for maybe about, 10, 15 seconds. She seems concerned, but, you know, she walks away. About 10 minutes afterwards, the mom comes in, checks up on her again. Now, this time, the mom decides to stand in front of the door for about 30 seconds. This is the ER doc. The triage nurse does come back and check up on her about 3 minutes later. Now, this time, you know, it seems like he might be getting a little bit concerned because he's standing near the door. He's kind of lingering around. He's going to stand in front of the door for about like two minutes here. At some point, he's going to make his way over to the front of the door and then waits there. They try knocking. Again, probably, you know, she's not opening the door for them. At this point, they did say they heard, you know, the toilet was flushing many times. They heard the paper towel dispenser going off. And at some point, you know, they're like, you know, we need to get the key. We need to get the key, and she needs to get out of there. Now, Alexee, she had no fucking excuse, man. She was in the bathroom, and there's an emergency cord you can pull if you need assistance. She could have pulled the cord. She could have got someone to come in there and help her. But no, she said that she gave birth to a baby. She said nothing was crying. It didn't make any sound. And what did she decide to do? She decided to discard in the trash can, which is wild to me. An autopsy was performed on the deceased child, and they found that the cause of death was entrapment because the baby was found in a bag, and manner of death was ruled as a homicide. Now, Alexee Trevizo's defense. What are they saying? They're saying, well, you know, actually, it's the hospital that's negligent. Not only that, but they overly medicated my client, and that's why the baby was born a stillborn, because Lexi said that, oh, nothing was breathing, nothing was crying. Now, they medicated her with sodium chloride, ketorolac, ondansetron, morphine sulfate, and these are medications. I think it was like for nausea, it was for pain. Some of them were like steroids. But I mean, us women, when we go to the doctors, usually the first thing they ask is, oh, are you pregnant? When's the last time you had your period? And sometimes, depending on what symptoms you're showing, you might be doing a urine sample. When we go to the hospital, they tend to make sure that, like, hey, you know, let's make sure you're not pregnant. And if we're going to give you any medication, we're going to make sure this medication is not going to fuck with your pregnancy.
Right, it was pretty early on because we did the urine first off. Any female that comes in with back pain, we do a urine right away because we're worried about a urinary tract infection. And with any female, when we do that, we always do a pregnancy test to make sure we don't give them medications that would contraindicate pregnancy.
Do you know who told her she was pregnant?
I believe Dr. Vasquez did.
So I had a hard time believing that they just willy-nilly just gave her a bunch of medication, didn't care if she was pregnant or not. And while it's possible that someone could have made an error and gave her maybe too much medication, I don't know if defense, I don't know how they're going to prove that. Now, the defense, they did say that, oh, there's a toxicology report that was shown. Apparently, the baby had 0.19 nanograms of morphine. Now, I don't know if that sounds like a lot, if it sounds a little bit, or if it's negligent. I just don't know about that. We'll have to wait for the experts to testify. He also said the baby was positive for COVID. The baby had influenza A and B, and also SARS as well. I don't know. I don't think that was mentioned in the state's autopsy. So maybe they did their own independent autopsy, and that's what the defense expert found. Oh boy. Okay. So let's address the issue with the trial that's supposed to be happening next month. Now, if you guys remember, there was a hearing that took place almost about a year ago. It was August 2023. There was a hearing. It was on like via Zoom or something like that. And the defense attorney was arguing, well, there was patient doctor privilege, that anything that happened between Alexee and the doctor, the medical staff, that's all privilege right there. The security footages shouldn't have been released. Any of the lab results, that shouldn't have been released. And, you know, we got the statements from the medical staff. They were giving statements to the police when they arrived. As a matter of fact, when the ER doctor found out there was a baby in the hospital and they were like, well, we got to call the police because, you know, we have a duty to report. They didn't want to talk to Alexee Trevizo without law enforcement present. So if you guys remember in the body cam footage where they tell Alexee Trevizo, hey, you know, we found a body.
I'm sorry, there's we discovered a dead baby in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. He came out at me and I didn't know what to do.
Lexi, I told you about this.
But it
I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth.
was not crying or nothing.
What did you do to it?
Okay, stop right here.
I
Stop,
just-
stop. Number one priority, guys. Number one priority is she just had a baby. I don't know if she's delivered the placenta. She's bleeding significantly.
Yeah.
I've spoken to the obstetrician at Loveless. They want her up there as soon as possible. In terms, I'm sorry about this, but in terms of delivering a baby and it looked like you tried to hide it, we do have to have the police involved.
And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing.
I know. But the baby's gonna have to be taken for autopsy and there'll be an investigator and everything. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But we need to do this correctly. And I wanna be transparent with you about what our steps are gonna be. Okay.
Do you guys have, I'm the charge nurse here, do you guys have any questions for me?
Like, how big is the baby?
It's full term.
What?
9 months?
Nothing was crying.
Lexi, have you watched the news of the girls that what they do to their babies and what they go to jail?
Nothing was crying.
Any other questions? Okay.
So as of right now, like what I said is, we're gonna have the detectives come over here and they're gonna talk to you, okay? We have to gather some more information about what's going on. They'll get your statement, they're gonna get the doctor's statements, they're gonna get everybody's statements, okay? So, I don't know everything yet, okay? So I'm not gonna tell you, I can't tell you nothing honestly, okay? All I can
But
say
she's
is,
not gonna go to jail.
right now,
No?
right now, she's being detained. So she's not gonna leave from here at all, period, okay? So one of us will
Is
be
it in your custody? Like,
yeah, she's detained.
oh,
Yeah, she's not under arrest, but she is
Okay.
detained, okay? She's not free to leave. So while this whole thing is coming up, is you're not free to leave, okay? One of us will be in here the whole time with you, because you're not gonna try to leave or nothing like that.
She
All right.
won't.
Like I said, the detectives will be here, they're gonna talk to you. I mean, your care is of the utmost right now, okay? They're gonna do what they need to do to take care of you, to make sure you get stable. They get you transferred out or whatever. Like I said, the detectives are already been notified, they're already on the way, so they're gonna come talk to you, all right? So don't leave, don't try to do that for, but other than that, like I said, us is always gonna be in here, in this room with you, okay? Unless we have to step out for doctor's orders or something like that, because if they need to examine you or do something with you. But other than that, like I said, you are detained, you are not free to leave at this point, do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Where was the baby at?
I don't know, I have no clue yet. Like I said, I just talked to the charge nurse, we're still getting all the information right now.
Okay.
Okay. Once we get that information, like I said, the detectives, they can clue you in on everything and talk to you more about it.
Okay.
All right?
Where did you put the baby at? Tell me the truth. In there. Where did
517
you put the baby at?
836 460.
That came out in the toilet. You put it in the bag?
Yes.
Yeah.
In what bag? Why did you say anything to us? Do you want to get in trouble for this now? You could get in trouble for
Mom,
this, baby.
Mom, alright, just give it time, okay? Let me speak to detectives whenever she's ready, okay? You ready for the second one?
We'll call back.
Second one is 512 401 333.
And this is her defense attorney, Gary Mitchell, making the argument that privilege existed when she went to the hospital for the very first time. Probably not when she was in the bathroom, but anything that happened afterwards. And that no one, the client, well, his client, which would have been the patient, Alexee Trevizo, she never waived that privilege.
The key question is to determine, when does this privilege apply? Well, it applied from the first time she went to the hospital. That's real clear under the rule and under the case law, and it applies to everybody there. And really, the state's case is the time in the bathroom. And then it applies afterwards as well. So my position to the court is everything that takes place between the time she goes to the hospital all the way through is privileged information that the doctors and the nurses could not give out to Artesia Police Department, could not give out to anybody without a waiver from my client, and we've never waived it. In addition,
now, are you talking statements made by her and her medical records?
yes, Your Honor, and that would also include lab reports and stuff.
Okay.
Anything that happens at Artesia General Hospital, and there's a case on that as well that says, hey, that includes lab.
Yeah, I want to look at the annotations. I don't see that. I'll have to pull. So let me ask this. Notwithstanding a doctor-patient privilege, what about the hospital's obligation to report the deceased child? Is that privilege? Are you claiming that as? Okay, that's where I was headed. Okay.
They have a duty to report it. They call 911.
So the judge clarified at the end, she just wants to know where the defense is at, because she's asking, well, okay, there are privileges. What are the exceptions to privileges? And he's like, well, okay, I mean, they do have a duty to report because they did find a dead infant in the restroom. So at that point, them calling 911, that's fine. And then the judge is like, okay, cool. That's where I just want to know where you're at with that. Now, let's get into more on this.
That's what we think is covered by the privilege. So all these medical records, all of these statements by doctors and nurses that were taken without waiver, all of the lab reports, not the state lab reports, not those that come on the examination of the baby, but those that were examination of my client, that would be the blood test results, pregnancy test results, things of that particular nature. All of that is privileged. Everything there is privileged and should never have been disclosed. And we need a determination from the court that it's privileged.
So he said that he needs a determination from the court that it's privileged, because I'm going to read you guys this. Let me zoom in for you guys. Or I'm going to wear my glasses. Ooh, much better. This is New Mexico's rules of evidence. So physician-patient privilege, rule 11504. Definition. For the purpose of this rule, a patient is a person who consults with or examined by a physician. So that's Alexee Trevizo. A physician, a person who's authorized to practice medicine in any state or nation. So that's the ER doctor. And then also that would probably apply to maybe the nurses who are working with her as well. B, scope of privilege. A patient has a privilege to refuse to disclose or to prevent any other person from disclosing a confidential communication made for the purpose of diagnosis or treatment, which Alexee Trevizo went there for back pain, although, we kind of think she knew more about her body than everyone else did. For the purpose of diagnosis or treatment for the patient's physical, mental, or emotional condition. Who may claim the privilege? The privilege may be claimed by the patient, so Alexee Trevizo. The privilege may be asserted on the patient's behalf by the patient's physician. Exceptions. So I'm going to skip to this right here. By the order of the court. So that is what Gary Mitchell needs from the court. So by the order of the court, unless the court orders otherwise, any communication made by the individual during the examination of the individual's physical, mental, or emotional condition that has been ordered by the court are not privileged. That is why Gary Mitchell needs the court to rule on this. And I don't know why it takes so long for the court to rule on this, because I feel like we didn't find out until, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago. Very recently did we find out that the court finally ruled on this. And again, this happened in July of 2000. Sorry, this hearing happened last year in August of 2023. So I don't know what was going on.
And if the court decides it's privileged, then unless I waive it, or there's another, and I don't know of any other reason, because the privilege is a privilege under Roper and Burchard and the rule, that remains privilege and cannot be used in court. So that's the argument on the privilege. So
Gary Mitchell, he brings up Roper, and I wanted to look this up. This is State v. Roper in New Mexico, because I want to know what the hell he's talking about. The state's appeals the trial court's order suppressing the results of the defendant's blood test. We determined the results of the defendant's blood test were protected by physician-patient privilege. So let's see what happened here. Defendant and passenger were involved in a vehicular accident. Defendant lost control of his motorcycle when he hit either a pothole or a patch of gravel. Ouch. Both he and the passenger sustained injuries requiring medical attention. The police officer questioned defendant at the hospital. The officer testified not only that he smelled alcohol in defendant's breath and the defendant had bloodshot, watery eyes, but also the defendant admitted that he had consumed 2 beers and had been speeding at the time of the accident. At some point, either before or after, or before and after, the officer arrested the defendant. The defendant asked the defendant if he would like to take a blood alcohol test. The defendant refused. 3. After defendant had been treated for his injuries, the officer asked one of the nurses in the emergency room about the blood alcohol content of the blood tests taken by the hospital in the course of diagnosing and treating the defendant. The nurse stated the test showed defendant's blood alcohol content to be 0.104. The state later subpoenaed the medical records. Defendant was eventually charged with operating vehicle under influence of alcohol pursuant to blah, 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 with causing great bodily injury while driving under the influence of alcohol pursuant to among other infractions. After arguments before the trial court on defendant's motion to quash the grand jury indictment and motion to suppress the results of the hospital's blood test, the trial court concluded that although the officer had probable cause to arrest the defendant, the results of the test constituted a privileged confidential, very hungry now, confidential communication between a physician and a patient. The trial court thus suppressed the test results. So that is what he is referring to. So he's saying that because Alexee Trevizo, now he's saying because Alexee Trevizo went there to seek medical treatment, and that's how the blood test was done, the urine test, for the pregnancy results and all the other stuff and all the communications between her, the doctors, the nurse staff, that all that is privilege. So very, very, very interesting. I was actually wondering this about, because it's New Mexico, right? I was wondering about this in the Karen Reed trial as well, because I was like, well, were they able to actually use that blood result from Karen Reed? Because she was actually, the blood was drawn as a result of her being sectioned there because, they were afraid that she was, possibly going to threaten herself and, threaten her life. And they did a blood test and all that stuff. And, they were able to use that in the trial. And I was like, oh, are they actually able to use it? I was really surprised they were able to use it. So maybe in Massachusetts, maybe something like that is not, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't privilege. So anyways, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Here is the state's response to the defense in regards to privilege. The state was like, well, the mother was there. That's a third party. That privilege is automatically revoked because the mom was there and she was making statements in front of the mom.
Statements made by treating personnel, doctors, nurses, records, video. He's kind of lumped all that together. The state doesn't believe that's proper. First of all, the defendant's mother, this defendant is an adult, the defendant's mother was present at all times. You can't have privilege if a third party is present in the room.
You just went mute.
The defendant's mother is present in the room with her at the emergency room. She's not with her in the restroom, but she's with her when the nurses, doctors, anyone is speaking with her. You can't have a privilege if you have a third party present. You've already, by your actions, letting your own mother be there, waived that privilege. So statements that are made are not going to be protected under this rule. She's an adult. If she was a minor, that would be different.
Ms. Luce has asserted that because her mother apparently was already in the room, that statements made by your client were, I guess, impliedly waived because her mother was in the room and she's an adult. I think it's based on that. I mean, if she were a minor, it'd be a different situation altogether. Can you address that?
Now, does the privilege at the hospital apply with the doctors and everything, with the mother being present? My position is, I'll try to do some further research on this. I agree with Diana. We need to do findings and conclusions and give you some case law about this so you're not deciding this thing in a vacuum. But my position is the doctor-patient privilege still applies because we do this all the time in hospitals. We have spouses present. We have family members present because they brought them in. And a lot of times the people aren't in their right mind to make decisions anyway and need a family advisor. We do this in hospitals all the time.
I don't know what, like, honestly, like I know a lot of people out there don't like Alexee Trevizo, but honestly, like, if you were a patient, would you feel like that privilege was revoked just because you had family member there? I mean, how many times do we go to the hospital with the doctors with family members around? I mean, honestly, hearing this part, I feel like I agree with Gary Mitchell. Of course, you know, the judge has to look at the case law and see what applies, what doesn't apply. But I mean, just having the mom there, does that truly remove their privilege?
It doesn't get rid of the privilege. It's my position.
All right. That's what I really, and that's going to be a real important factor for me to examine and I do think before I make any really hard decisions, you're getting my impressions on stuff, but I would really like to have your finding of facts, conclusions of law before I really have studied this. So that's something I'd like both sides to give me some authority on about that. Is it impliedly waived if you allow another person in the room? All right.
Okay, we're wrapping up right now. We're getting pretty close. I just want to bring this out that the judge, she mentioned that whether or not that privilege was waived implicitly. And I want to read this before we go. Okay, I know this video's getting a little bit long, but I don't know. I was nerding out a little bit here. As with, what am I reading? I'm reading something from Protecting Privilege Information. This is from, I think this is like specifically New Mexico. Evidence, Protecting Privilege Information, new procedure resolving claims of physician-patient privilege in New Mexico, Pena v. Espinoza, and that is what Gary Mitchell, I think, referred to initially. It goes into the history of physician-patient privilege, which, you guys, I'll link this below. If you guys want to read this, I think it's pretty interesting. Okay, so as with other evidentiary privileges, again, what is evidentiary privileges? Evidentiary privilege, so that applies to, you have the right to not, testify and incriminate yourself. Also, you also have a right to prevent others from testifying about you. So in that case, that would be like, like spousal privileges, right? Like if you're married to someone and you told them X, Y, and Z, well, that spouse can't go behind and testify in court because that conversation is privilege. There's like attorney-client privileges, right? With attorneys. There's if you have a therapist, right? So these are some examples. And now we're focusing on physician-patient privileges. Now, there are exceptions to these rules, right? Like, for example, you're talking to your physician and you're thinking about harming yourself or maybe committing a crime, or there's a crime in commission right now. They can have a duty to report, but let's not focus on that. So with any other evidentiary privileges, the physician-patient privilege may be waived either expressively or implicitly. So the implicit part is the part where the judge is focusing on. The patient may expressively waive the privilege by signing an authorization for the release of his, I don't know why I said authorization word like that, sorry. I'm just super hungry. By signing an authorization for the release of his or her medical information. So that didn't happen there, right? Alexee Trevizo didn't sign any waiver, or at least not that we know of. Her attorney never signed a waiver or anything like that. So now we're focusing on the implicit part. Such authorization must be carefully drafted to limit the scope of the waiver to ensure disclosure will not violate a patient's privacy. Okay, so that's the explicit one. The waiver of privilege may be implied or inferred by the patient's conduct. An implied waiver depends on two considerations: the interpretation of the actual conduct and the fairness of the situation created by that conduct. As the noted author explains, a waiver is to be predicated not only when the conduct indicates a plain intention to abandon the privilege. So Alexee Trevizo having her mother there, was that a very plain intention that she wanted to abandon her patient-physician privilege? It seems like no. Going back to this, but also when the conduct, though not evincing that intention, places the claimant in such a position that it would be unfair and inconsistent to permit the retention of the privilege. So that is where the attorneys, they're like, okay, well, the judge is not sure yet, but the attorneys, they're going to go back and they're going to research some case law and help the judge make that determination. So now we're finally here. What did the judge determine? Oh boy, we're about a month away from trial. And like I said, we have pre-trial happening in about 2 weeks. So when you're looking at this case, it seems like the judge has sided with the defense. The judge said that anything that happened before the bathroom, anything that happened afterwards, it seems like it's all privileged. Now, I wasn't able to get the actual details about it because, again, this is all under seal. But, you know, the state attorney, they have come out. They did speak a little bit. And it seems like, so I'm trying to get my thoughts together. The hospital staff, they can't talk about the conversation before or after the bathroom. However, they can talk about finding the body in the restroom. So what do you guys think? Does that really limit the state's case? Because if the nursing staff, if they aren't able to talk about what Alexee said regarding, like, you know, the pregnancy test and all that, I don't know. I just don't know how limited it is, but it seems like it's really effing limited if the hospital staff can only talk about finding the baby, right? The state, they are going to appeal to a higher court. They're going to go to the Supreme Court and see if they will reverse the judge's decision. And, you know, because of this, maybe there's a continuance. Maybe Alexee Trevizo's not going to have her trial next month. I don't know. Maybe she will. And we'll see what happens. I'm keeping my eye up on the New Mexico website to see if there's any updates. You know, like I said, everything is under seal, so I can't look at these documents or anything like that. But oh boy, I did want to read a quote though, because I think Law and Crime reported on this. Maybe it was Court TV. Law and Crime, Court TV, Alexee Trevizo. Oh boy, the Karen Reed stuff is crazy. Okay, I did a video. If you guys haven't already, go watch that video. Some of the jurors came out and talked about what went on in deliberation, and it seems like they all agreed that she was not responsible for second-degree murder and leaving the scene. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the article right now, so I'm stalling. Where is it? In response, District Attorney Diana Luce, who represented Eddie Lee and Chavez counties in the Land of Enchantment, has asked the state's highest court to salvage the high-profile case. So, seems like Gary Mitchell succeeded in his argument. The defense's successful suppression of the evidence reaches a great deal of what prosecutors would have likely presented to the jurors. First, the defense argued the strong patient-physician privilege under New Mexico law prohibits the prosecution from using almost all of what happened at Artesia Hospital in January 2023, except for the basic fact of the staff reporting of the dead infant found in the trash can. Oh gosh. In the end, Judge Jane Gray essentially agreed with the defense on the medical privilege issue. They also argued about Miranda violation, but I didn't really get into that because I was really just focusing on the patient-physician privilege. But Gray initially signaled that both sides would have things to like and dislike about her eventual decision on the suppression motion and asked for additional briefings on the matter. The state, it seems, disliked the court's evidentiary ruling quite a bit more. Is this really just a medical issue that is private and confidential, or was there some type of actions that arise to the level of criminal intent? Luce rhetorically asked the TV station while aiming to skirt the confines of the seal in the case, and then she answered her own question. So, we believe that it rises to the level of criminal intent. There's no telling if and when the New Mexico Supreme Court will take up on the question and issue on its own answer on that matter. I mean, to me, I think this is a huge hiccup for the state if they aren't able to discuss or have the medical staff discuss about what happened at the hospital. Because she made a lot of statements there, you know. She kept telling them over and over that she's never had sex, that she's a virgin, she had her period last month, you know, she's been having her period normally, that she's actually still on her period right now at the hospital. And you know what, I actually thought about that. I was like, okay, what if she really was on her period? Because I do remember that they did find a tampon in the trash. They found like towels, they found the tampon, some napkins and things like that. And I was like, okay, so maybe the tampon was hers. But I do remember the mom saying that she bought pads for her daughter. And then Alexee Trevizo, she, you know, when they were going to arrest her and bring her in, the mom asked if she could go and like grab her pads with her because she was still having like trouble with bleeding. But it's also possible that maybe the mom didn't know that Alexee was using tampons, or maybe the tampon wasn't even hers. I don't know. I was trying to explore like, okay, what if she was still on her period and then she generally didn't know that she was pregnant? Like, I was trying to explore that avenue, you know, even though when we see pictures and videos, it kind of looks like she was pregnant and, you know, she would probably know her own body. But I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a huge hiccup for the state. However, I think at the end of the day, though, you still got her for tampering with evidence, right? Because she admitted that. She admitted to putting, you know, the body into the trash bin. She even said it. Wait, actually, hold on a second. It was on the body cam footage. Oh, I don't know if they can use that actually because there might be a Miranda violation. Oh gosh, I don't know what the heck they can use. Jesus, what a mess. Okay, so I'm not even sure about that. So, I mean, I think they can show the video of her going to the bathroom and coming out of it, right? We'll have to see if the judge deemed that was privilege or not, because the state did argue, well, that's yeah, it's in the hospital, but it's a public hallway. People have, you know, access to that. I mean, if they can use that and show Alexee Trevizo went in there, used the restroom, stayed in there for 20 minutes, and then subsequently after that, that was when the hospital staff found the infant in there. I mean, that could already be enough to tie her to that. And then the state has to just prove that the baby was alive when, you know, she gave birth, and that the cause of death was because of what she did, right? Putting the baby into the bag. Jesus. Okay, this is gonna be a crazy one. So guys, thank you so much for watching this. This video is a lot longer than I intentionally wanted, but at the same time, I just wanted to include all the videos because we haven't watched this in more than a year, maybe for some of us, more than a year and a half. So I wanted to recap all this for you guys. And then I've linked all the videos if you guys want to watch them on your own. Again, as a refresher, I linked the True Crime channel, and then I'll link any other thing that I used in here as well. And then links to some of the case law stuff, which I found to be interesting. But I wish I can access the arguments, you know, so I can just read it. I like doing that because I'm like looking it up, trying to figure out, okay, what is this guy talking about? What is he talking about over here? But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys. We're covering the Alec Baldwin trial right now. Pop in, say hi during the live streams. And yeah, I mean, if you guys want to discuss this case in the live stream, feel free to pop in as well. That's my favorite way of communicating with you guys. All right, have a good one. Take care. And I will see you guys. Take care of yourself. Bye.